Good evening and welcome back to the Upset Podcast. Tonight we're talking about justice, reconciliation, and leadership. Coming up next. Everybody. Hey, and we are back. Welcome back to the Upset Podcast with this fabulous four here. How's everybody doing?
Oh, I've been just sitting here waiting
to join us, right?
I say technology is just such a wonderful thing.
Isn't it? Hello, everyone. Hello to our live viewers. We're back live. We hope everyone had an enjoyable Labor Day weekend. Last weekend, it seems like just a blur now, but last time we were talking about it, we were assuming that it was going to be a great weekend, but now having experienced it, I can truly say it was great for those who attended.
It was.
Pine Forge Alumni Weekend was it was a great experience. There were so many alumni in the place. And I just shout out to the team, the Alumni Association for Pine Forge Academy. They did a phenomenal job planning. To me, it was record turnout. I don't have exact figures, but just from me eyeballing it, and there were a lot of people there supporting, and it was great. I actually got to see Tally in the flesh.
Yeah, and I'm not an alumnus of Pine Forge, but I think I'm an honorary alumnus. But
yeah,
they accept me there, I guess, because I'm a Philadelphian.
Can I ask one question about Pine Forge alumni? How much money was raised that weekend?
You got right to it, huh?
A lot was raised. As a matter of fact, the class of 1970, somebody please correct me. I think it was class of 1970, donated $25,000 right there during the worship service. But wow. they shared a video saying that over the last few years they've donated $1.2 million or something to that effect
from just one class.
One class.
Wow.
So they're serious about giving, and I think it was great because I feel like it challenged the other classes to say yes, we can invest a little bit more as well. So it was amazing, and of course, love running into some of our viewers there, and it's always great to interact with people that you don't see on the other side of the numbers of viewers, but now we got to meet some of them in person, so that was always.
Yeah, I heard the numbers are up. The enrollment is up this year as well from last year.
Oh yeah, Pine Forge Academy. Yes, I think we're at 130, 131.
Wow.
Girls' dorm is packed.
That's good.
So, but they did share during that weekend that 150 is still the number that's when they really feel like that's the sweet spot. So that's the goal number. So we might be able to get there in a few weeks. Who knows? So it was definitely.
It won't take long. I mean, GP will be sending his daughter up there, and
from kindergarten to high school, and just seems like just yesterday you were taking your son there, huh, Keenan? No.
Yeah, for real. Goes by so fast.
For sure. So tell me, what's been happening that's catching your attention out there in this big old world?
A lot of football.
Well, yeah, we want to talk about that. So we
you want to talk about it, Keenan?
Department of War. The Pentagon is now the Department of War, Secretary of War. So that was just that was just crazy.
It's like I feel like some of those phrases, I was reading that it dated back to George Washington presidency, and
no, I think it's not quite that far back. I think it's right around World War II that it was called the Department of War before. But it is expressive.
George Washington's administration, yeah. But go ahead, finish what you were going to say, Tally.
No, it's just my heart goes out to Rosalie.
Oh no, Oh, so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely
Prayer.
for you. Thanks for being here.
And,
Sorry.
and just like that, my heart was lifted up when I saw from Donovan Johnson, who was one of our members at West, who relocated to Florida. He and his wife are just. I mean, Donovan is one of the man is a box of candy on 2 feet. He's just one of the sweetest human beings.
Box of candy. I love that.
Yeah, and so, but the other thing that happened besides us relabeling the Department of Defense the Department of War is the fact that there was a gathering over in China, I believe it was, Keenan, where the president of Russia, the president of China, president of India, president of the dictator of North Korea. So many different nations came together to show solidarity as being arrayed against the influence of the United States of America, and it says something about where we stand in the national community. And we are in the isolated position that we tried to put Russia in back in the 60s and the 70s.
Wow, that is humbling, especially when you put it that way.
And it's frightening. I mean, because the world is on a war footing, and then you have this man in the White House who wants to call the Department of Defense the Department of War.
Yeah, that's just those are like literally fighting words.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And it was discovered recently that Donald Trump in his first presidency okayed a super secret mission by SEAL Team 6 to go into North Korea to install listening devices. And this super secret mission, which involved the United States SEALs going undercover through a submarine, they perceived themselves to be discovered by what they thought might be a North Korean military boat. So they opened fire on the boat. And then upon discovering that it wasn't a military boat, that it was simply fishermen, they murdered all of the fishermen.
Oh my gosh.
Now, this kind of information getting out.
Wow.
I'm sure the only ones that are surprised are us here in America.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be too surprised anymore. It's ridiculous. Hello, Verla. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. So
I know Verla caught a lot of flack in college or high school when the name vassal, which kind of means servant or serf or peasant. He's my vassal, but not spelled the same way, but it sounds the same way.
Yeah, people always find ways to twist your last name. My maiden name was Betts, and so
I guess you took a gamble on marrying somebody else, huh?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Hey, the Reverend Dr. Rodney Grissom there.
Is ready for a rousing discussion of intellectual proportion.
I am too.
Setting that bar high. Okay, yes. Well, I think it is about that time for us to transition now. Earlier this year, we celebrated the fact that we had, a few doctors loading in our midst, and what a privilege for us to have such scholars as part of our Upset crew. And so we thought it only made sense for the good doctors to come and share some of this knowledge they've been researching for months, years, and kind of present it to us here on the Upset podcast. So Dr. Tyler is going to break down our discussion that is based on his research done for his doctorate work. So go ahead, Dr. Tyler, lay it out for us.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Latasha, for this opportunity to share. Thank you. So basically, my dissertation, or let me back up. I went to Andrews University. I went under the cohort of leadership. And I just want to shout out, some people have some negative things to say about Andrews, but their D-Min program for leadership was life-changing for me. It changed the way I look at ministry. So I just want to say, anybody you interested in, or you thinking about going to Andrews to go back to school, definitely look into the leadership cohort because, it was just phenomenal. They focus on leading yourself than leading others. Okay, so that was my cohort. That was my cohort right there. So now get to my project. My dissertation, the name of my dissertation is Leading the Church Out of White Supremacy and Toward Biblical Justice and Reconciliation, a leadership approach based on the ARC model created by Jamar Tisby. All right. Okay. So that's the name. That's the name of the dissertation. All right. So my dissertation, it traces how white supremacy isn't just a cultural issue. It's a theological distortion with historical roots that have shaped both church and society. So historical foundations, empire, doctrine, and discovery. I'm gonna break that down. And I'm not gonna give the whole thing because I don't wanna bore you to death. So I just give some highlights.
It's not boring, is it?
Okay, no, I'm saying I want to get all the I know it's a podcast. I can't give you the whole document, right? So it's rooted in Revelation chapter 12, right? The start. And Revelation chapter 12, we call that the great controversy. And it traces how Lucifer, it was a grab for power. He wanted to be worshiped. And worship is the currency of heaven. So he wanted that power. And we know that that's the exact opposite of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, he disseminated power. He gave away power. He came down, he humbled himself. But the spirit of Lucifer always try to take power, try to dominate, try to lord over. Right? So we following the historical approach of prophecy. And y'all stick with me. Historical approach of prophecy following from Lucifer, the great controversy, then looking at Daniel chapter 2, and going from Babylon to Medo-Persia, to Greece, to the Roman Empire. And we know Roman Empire pretty much broke up into Western civilization as we know it today. And so each of them, from Lucifer all the way down to Western civilization and even America today, they all have the ideology of supremacy. They want the same grab for power, right? And so in the project, we learned that we now live in the age, through colonialism, imperialism, we live in the age of global white supremacy. It's not limited to just America, right? But all over the world, we live in the age of global white supremacy. But we had to get some biblical background. So to back this up with the Bible, right? And the reason why we had to go to the Bible to show that God is concerned with justice. So God, he wants us as his people to be concerned with justice as well. So looking at Amos chapter 5, well, really the whole book of Amos, but Amos chapter 5, verse 24, y'all all know this. It says, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. We looked at the book of Habakkuk as well, and we see how God uses prophets to call out systemic injustice, even of his own people, right? And from there, we went to the New Testament too, looking at Luke chapter 4:18, through 30, when Jesus called out his first sermon, when he called out nationalism, he called out exclusion, and we know what happened at the end of his sermon as he called out systems of injustice. It led to violence. The people wanted to kill him. We also looked at John chapter 4 with the woman at the well. Jesus, he broke through barriers of ethnic, gender, social barriers. He broke through all those prejudices back then. We looked at Acts chapter 10. In Acts chapter 10, Peter has this vision. He sees the sheep lay down with unclean animals side by side with clean animals, which in the Jewish tradition, that meant everything was unclean. But God showed him don't call no man unclean. So we show how God, he's always pushing his people to push past prejudice. Don't call anybody unclean. And then we landed on the three angels' messages. Some people think that social justice and the three angels' messages are just completely opposite, or the gospel is opposite. But we looked at how the three angels' messages actually is a message of justice. So if we are to proclaim the three angels' messages, we should be concerned with social justice as well. Fear God, All right. Go back to being obedient, fear God, give him glory. How do we give God glory? By representing the character of God, by being loving, by looking after the least of these, right? So then after we laid the biblical background, because people have to see that God is concerned with justice, and he's against social injustice in the Bible. You got to set that perimeter first. Mm-hmm. Then we looked at the history, like a white supremacy, how it was formalized through the doctrine of discovery. You had papal bulls starting in 1452 that gave theological justification for enslaving non-Christian people. This evolved into colonialism, manifest destiny, scientific racism, all baptized in just Christian language, right? So that was almost the formulation of white supremacy, right? And we also looked at theological corruption, God in the image of the colonizer. In many of our churches in Western civilization, right, the order of service, if it don't look like it came out of Western Europe, then some people may deem it as being evil. Some even have problems with drums sometimes, but that's another topic. But in most churches, nobody has a problem with Jesus and angels, being white, visually white, right? There's no problem with that. When God says, don't make no graven images, anything in heaven. But in Western civilization, Christianity, you normally have the white Jesus, the white angels, and we know what does that does to a little kid's psyche. What does that do to anybody, right? So salvation through colonialism became privatized, no longer confront or oppression or empire. Stop doing that system like this dispensationalism and colorblind theology served to protect whiteness and the idolatry of whiteness by denying or spiritualizing structural sin. Now, did that have any impact on the Adventist church? Of course. The Adventist church was founded in 1863. The church mirrored the racial caste system of the United States. Early, when Ellen White, when she talked about, through the summer work, when she talked about issues of injustice, of course, her voice, they tried to sideline her, send her off to Australia. But we have segregated conferences. We are structurally racist. We have Black conferences and white conferences. Historically speaking, we had unequal funding, compared Oakwood funding comparison to Andrews and Loma Linda, and on and on and on, right? So we have been impacted with our church. And our Sabbath school lessons, again, white Jesus, white angels, and nobody says anything about that.
May I ask a question?
I'm almost. Can I just? Can you just hold it, Sally? Can you hold it?
Okay. Oh, sure. Of course I can. You got nothing but time.
Nothing but time, right? Right. I'm back. I'm off vacation. All right. So, white supremacy is a forced theology, right? Forced theology. Is a pillar of modern day Babylon with its hierarchy, really a hierarchy, not holiness. And the antidote is not inclusion; it's repentance, reconstruction, and reimagining faith from the margins. All right. So now, silence. The Adventist church historically, not all, because there has been some who spoke out and has been speaking out against social injustice. But I'm talking about just structural, or should I say, mainly the majority of the church has really had been silent in the face of injustice. And silence in the face of injustice is not neutrality. It is a theological endorsement of the status quo. The church avoided civil rights under theology of separation from the world. The church is the remnant, some believe, because the church is the remnant church, we shouldn't be involved with things about social injustice, because we're the remnant. Just worry about getting people into heaven. Let's not talk about social injustice. All right. But that has historically been the mindset, the mold of the Adventist church. So what we did with the project And there's much, much more, right? We laid it out from the Bible first, how God is concerned with social injustice. And then we looked at white supremacy and its impact on Christianity, on economics, on politics, on academia, and its impact, because I'm a therapist, on people's mental health, right? Right. So we looked at that. And so after we wrote all of that, or after all that was written, then for the project, we asked people from all of the 16 Adventist churches in Tidewater if they wanted to be a part of this program, or this curriculum that's going to help the church better collectively come together to fight racism and social injustice. So at first, I was just going to do this with my 2 churches, but Dr. Norman Miles, he insisted that I reach out to all of the churches in Virginia and the Tidewater area. So that's what we did. So we had people from different churches, a few from the Potomac Conference, and we all came together for 6 sessions. And we went through Dr. Rock's book on protest and progress. And we had people in this group who never even knew why we had regional conferences to begin with. They never knew, and they grew up Adventist, they never knew that this church, we had issues when it came to race. They never knew about it. And some of them never knew, they didn't even see the impact of white supremacy and racism in everyday life until they went through the program. So we took about 18 people through this project. And again, from diverse backgrounds, Black, some white, some Spanish. It was a mix. It was a whole mixture, right? And the ARC model that we brought them through with this curriculum, A stands for awareness, R stands for relationships, and C stands for commitment.
I thought you were going to say colored people for a minute there.
Right, and C stands for commitment, and that was created by Jamal Tisby. So we brought them through 6 sessions of that, and at the end of the 6 sessions, the majority of the people, they said, Pastor, we need to start a diversity ministry in every single church. In every single church, we need to start this, right? And so as a result of that, I created my own, and it's called, instead of the ARC model, now it's called my own curriculum is called the AARC model. A stands for awareness, because you got to raise the level of consciousness with people. If the church members don't see that we should be concerned with the least of these, they'll think that it's just holy to put your head in the sand and just all you're concerned about, all you need to be concerned about, just getting people into heaven. Just putting a Band-Aid on social justice issues. Give people food, but don't worry about the systems that put people in those predicaments to begin with, right? So that's the A. Then the other A now that I added was anti-racism. So anti-racism, looking at policies, looking at laws, and see where laws are written in a way to keep people on the margins, to keep them marginalized. And then let's do something about it. And then the R has relationships still, and the C is commitment. So as a result of this, bringing these people all through these 6 sessions, and 4 sessions was done at Tidewater Adventist Academy, 2 sessions were done online on Zoom. Here's some of the results. Out of 18 participants that did the pre-survey and the post-survey, right? The post-assessment showed 35% increase in theological understanding, 28% rise in cross-racial unwillingness. In other words, they saying that they need to reach out and do something. A 41% growth in anti-racism. In other words, 41% said we need to do something. We need to do something different for our churches. And then it went from 50% of people saying that white supremacy, racism, they're not impacted, to 95% that's saying that it does impact them in a certain way. So as the result of all of this, my prayer is that all of our churches go through this curriculum, because I spoke to pastors. They're not getting this in undergrad. They're not. I know I didn't get it in seminary. A focus on social justice, but my prayer is that everyone, all our churches, starting with our pastors, go through this curriculum, the AARC model, so we could be better able to fight the social injustices, not just racism, but as a whole in our communities. So so that's all of it in a nutshell. Again, this was 5 years. I got it's so much. I'm not scratching the surface with it. So what are your thoughts, questions, or anything?
Before Tally picks a fight, let me ask this question. So you, as long as I've known you, you've always been passionate about this topic. So did you enroll into Andrews University with this topic in mind in an effort to help dismantle at the mecca of white Adventism? Was there strategy behind that? You going to Andrews for this particular topic?
I wish I could say GPS. I was just that strategic in my thinking. No, but realistically, I got the GI Bill, and the GI Bill said if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So I was like, okay, what can the GI Bill pay for? I looked up Andrews, and it just so happened the next cohort started was on leadership. And I was like, okay, got it. It was like God set everything up. And I already had in my mind on how to lead a church out of white supremacy. So it was just perfect. It was like it just rolled in. And even that's a testimony, because when I first started the process, I was told I could not use that title.
I can imagine.
So you can imagine, right? You could not, right. I was told I could not use that title. But then when I defended for my dissertation, the title I had, I didn't even know the title. They're like, "Do you want this title?" I was like, "Nah, I don't want this title." They said, "Well, get the title that you want." So I put the title I want, and then a week later, it's like, "Nah, you can't put that title. We need something a little more neutral."
Can you repeat that title for us,
the title, the original, or the one it is now? So
the one that it is,
is leading the church out of white supremacy and toward biblical justice and reconciliation, a leadership approach based on the ARC model. So even after I defended my dissertation, they told me you could change it. I changed it. They like, no, you can't change it to that. Get something else. But thanks be to God, Dr. Norman Miles, my advisor, he went to bat for me, and I was able to keep the title.
And I'm sure the issue was using the phrase
white supremacy. They wanted something more neutral.
Okay. Now, and I wanted to say before Tally asks this question, because just foundational, because some people hear white supremacy and we think everybody knows what it means, but just quick definition of, it sounds self-explanatory, but just to be clear, when you say white supremacy, what are you saying?
Right. So, just to keep it simple, it's just the ideology that just white people are superior, and people of color just are inferior. Okay. That's the simplest, basic definition.
Okay.
And it impacts, it's in our churches, it impacts all institutions in Western civilization. It's built on it.
Okay. But Tally, you had a question earlier, so
I forgot.
Did you really? You're so
I did. I forgot. But but the natural question is that, is it that they're Black Adventists who are not aware of the white supremacist leanings of the Adventist Church? Yeah.
So to my surprise, Tally, I shouldn't say that. Not to my surprise. So I had one pastor who will remain nameless in the Tidewater area. He told me, he's not going to promote this to his church. He spoke to his leaders about it, and he said that the people in his church, they told him straight up, they said, we don't even see ourselves as Black. We're not Black. This is not an issue. This is not a real issue. There's no need to,
They were Black and they didn't see themselves as Black?
Yeah, they didn't see themselves as Black.
Yeah.
I don't know what their background is. I don't know, but you said that. And then so the people who did show up, Tally, we had one lady, I can't say the names, right? But we had one lady, but she's not from this country. But we had them for homework. They had to read Dr. Rock's book, Protest in Progress. And so we supposed to just go over chapter 1 on our first meeting. But she was so blown away. She read the whole book in one setting.
Wow.
And because she just said she had no idea. Yeah, she had no idea that the church, had these issues. She just didn't know. And I told her, I said, well, it's not your fault if you didn't hear from your pastors. Like, how would you know? And so if our pastors are not talking about this, can't expect church members to talk about this.
And I see a comment
go ahead,
affirming Andrews University and their awesome theological education from our soon-to-be ministerial director.
Yes. So Dr. Williams, he almost was my second reader. He almost was my second reader, but he and thank you, Dr. Ron. Thank you. I know you would have been great, but he said, hey, you need to use this lady right here. So it was a white lady. She's my second reader, Dr. Jeanette Bryce, and God bless her heart. She had lunch with Malcolm X, and so Ron and I, we listening to her, and Ron's like, yeah, you should get her for yourself. So she was a tremendous, Dr. Miles and Dr. Jeanette Bryce. Oh my goodness, it was a tremendous I would not have got this project done if it had not been for both of them.
So Rodney was asking, because you mentioned the model. Of course, now hearing this, pastors are going to want to know how they can get their hands on the model. But
pay up.
No.
But
oh wow, gee, I wasn't even thinking about.
Come on, I got you, Doc. You gonna work it out.
Well, Rodney, just reach out to me. Hit me up, Rodney. Just my email, and I'm gonna say this. What I'm gonna do is, because I was told not to do anything with this until I finish. Don't do anything. So now that I finish, I would like to bring my church leadership through this model, and then the whole church in the new year. But Rodney, hit me up, my email, or just DM me.
Upset exclusive.
I don't want to move too soon. But Rodney, just reach out to me, and we could definitely talk.
Now, I noticed that you started with a reference to Revelation chapter 12.
Yeah. All right, now this is the tally. I was waiting. Yeah, I knew that'd get you.
What did I do?
Mention the word, right?
Yeah, I mean, so Revelation chapter 12. So theologically, are you suggesting that specifically Revelation chapter 12 addresses white supremacy specifically, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, and I was saying in Revelation, the great controversy, the grab for power. There's a power, right. Lucifer wants power. So that same ideology, those that follow Lucifer, they still want that power. You said it so eloquently last week. I think it was last week. You said how, Jesus, he gives power, he distributes power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking about labor, yeah.
Yeah, he tried to hold power and try to dominate, and so that's the spirit of Lucifer. And those that follow Lucifer, they have that same mindset. For the most part, they want to dominate and lord over. They don't want to distribute power, So I was taking that and then showing how, from the historicist point of view of prophecy, trying to see how that came through, from Babylon all the way to Western civilization in America as we know it today.
So Dr. Tyler, you mentioned the three angels' message, in the context of social justice. So Babylon being fallen, judgment coming. Like, can you just break that down? How is that social justice?
Okay. Wow. So, I did preach a sermon on this last year at camp meeting.
Oh yeah.
So most times the reason why I had to put in, Luke chapter 4 and the three angels messages, because not most people, but some Adventists say we need to just focus on spreading the three angels messages. Let's not get distracted with social justice, So we know that the three angels messages, it says the gospel. The three angels preach the everlasting good news, right? And it says fear God. What does it mean to fear God? That's going back to we like to say Ecclesiastes, we go fear God and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man. All right, that is true. Fear God, go back to reverencing God. Absolutely. But then it also says, and give God glory. Sometimes we kind of just dismiss that part. How do we give God glory? By being a reflection of his character of love. And if we truly are reflecting God's character and giving him glory, we're going to look out for those that are on the margins. We're going to look out for the least of these. That's not separate from the gospel. That's right there in the gospel, right? Right. And then it says, figure again, for the hour of his judgment. And we know that word judgment can also be translated as justice as well. For the hour of his judgment has come. And we know that judgment is always made in favor of the saints. So there's nothing to be afraid of, but judgment is coming down to in the Old Testament. Whenever we see judgment, it primarily does two things, right? For one, it takes down the oppressor, right? Right, and it gives liberty to those that are oppressed. So judgment is not a bad thing. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's a good thing, right? And then, of course, it says here, and worship God, and we throw the Sabbath right there. And the Sabbath itself, on the Sabbath, when God said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, nobody could work. Whether you were rich or poor, it was all equal. Everybody had freedom on that day. So even the Sabbath, it fights against systems of injustice, especially system of capitalism that tells you to work, 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 work. You're not even human. You're not even a human being. Just work, because capital is the most important thing. Tally said that last week, but the Sabbath nullifies that. Just rest. And then it says Babylon is falling. So white supremacy is a pillar that keeps Babylon up, right? So any system that try to put itself against God, above God, turns into Babylon. So all systems that go against God turns into Babylon, right? And this system of injustice, all systems of justice, injustice, and exploitation, they all come down. Their time is up. So that's the second age message. And then the third age message is pretty much, here's the patience of the saints, those that keep the commandments of God. It's righteousness by faith. So all the three age message, it is about social justice.
Okay, Dr. Tyler, you mentioned how one of the churches, pretty much refused to continue with the project or participate or something like that. And so Doc Williams had the question, what reason do you believe a church would have for disregarding its ethnicity or culture with regard to appreciating biblical social justice?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think we have been miseducated. If the pastors, again, churches are really just a reflection of the pastors. If the pastors don't have a heart for social justice, or if they think it's separate from the gospel, why would they mention it? They might think it's a distraction. So therefore, the church members are going to feel the same way. So when this project, and again, I don't know how the pastor presented it to his congregation. I gave everybody a video so that they don't have to worry about it. Just play the video. So that's why I just think that they have a faulty theology. And so we shouldn't even talk about these issues. Let's just leave it alone. We're neutral. We're colorblind. We don't see race. So when you have that mindset, you're not going to speak out against those things.
And I was going to ask the question because, this is part of your leadership. And so pretty much your challenge is for church leadership, pastors, to begin to educate their congregations. That's the ultimate goal with what you got. Okay.
Right, but they have to go, should I say, I would recommend that they go through the curriculum first.
Okay, so the pastor would go through the curriculum and then present it to the congregation. And what does the curriculum look like again? It's like...
So the curriculum right now is 6 sessions.
Okay.
All right, 6 sessions.
So good number.
It's
a good number. Yeah.
So the homework, we're using for right now, we're using Dr. Rock's book, No Protest in Progress, because again, if people don't even see that this issue has been in our church, if they don't see that, then it's like, huh, what? Like they have to catch it. Like, oh, we had issues in our church as well. So that's the homework. So the first session, we're talking about Dr. Rock's chapter 1, and then we talk about white supremacy and Christianity, Christendom. We say how that has impacted us in our theology. And again, one of those things impacting our theology is a real focus on self. It's really all about self, instead of the system or we, you know. So we really looked at that. The second session, it deals with economics and the fight for regional conferences from Dr. Rock's book, chapter 2. Yeah, so the second chapter, the second session is based off. We talk about economics of white supremacy. The third chapter talk about white supremacy and politics. The fourth is academia. The fifth, we focus on white supremacy impact on mental health. And I was told to put that in there because of my being a therapist. So they told me to put that in there. And then the sixth is, okay, what can we do about it now? And what's the result? And we also look at some historical approaches before to try to fight social injustices as well, and where we at now. We look at different, like a Booker T and a W. Du Bois, and we look at the differences of, and what has been done historically to fight white supremacy and racism.
How do you perceive race to interact with the scriptures? Is race a part of the biblical narrative, and if so, how does it interplay with the Bible?
No, I just think it's more just injustice, right? Just injustice, period. And so it just so happens to play out. It could be classism, it could be rich, poor. It just so happened to play out like that in today's time. And of course, race, we know this is no such thing as race. It's a social construct to keep those divided, to see who's human, who's not human. And so therefore, the ones who are not human, Bible don't apply to them because they're not human beings to begin with. So that's why you can have slavery and all these injustices, because they're not human to begin with. So hopefully that answered your question.
That did, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of today's climate and, this agenda to kind of erase portions of history because of how it makes certain groups look bad, and it's like, oh, let's just focus on the future. How do you think some of that plays a part in even, with the church doesn't want to look at that history as well, because we don't want to accept that that's part of our history. So we'd rather not highlight that in terms of.
Absolutely. So the what's behind it is they, quote unquote, they want nobody to feel ashamed of the past. So let's just don't talk about it. Well, if you don't study history, then you're bound to repeat it. So I heard one person say this, and I kind of sort of agree. If we rely on other people to teach our history, we will always be set up like this. So that's why we have to teach our own history. We have to make, and so that's why the curriculum is there. So we can teach. And I also made it can be taught from K through 12 as well. It'll also be a college course as well. So that's why we have to teach our own history, because you can't rely on somebody else, or you're going to continue to set yourself up for failure.
Mm-hmm. So Doc Williams had another question for you, Tally. He wants to know your take, what Pastor Tally's take would be on Keenan's work in comparison to your experience as a faith-based leader who started a public office in Philly, a mayoral office that addresses social justice before it was even a popular thing, social justice.
I mean, the idea of Keenan has been nailing it, and we've gone back and forth for quite a while on this, and Keenan's just been. I keep looking up. The longer we go, the more Keenan and I are agreeing. So I'm starting to worry.
We're in trouble.
I'm starting to worry, but
that's scary. That's scary.
Yeah. I mean, one of us is getting smarter, or one of us is getting something. But the idea of using the faith community to confront social justice issues requires for the faith community to be willing and daring enough to pull away from societal norms, which it normally will not. I mean, because last week we were talking about how our church was opposed to the labor movement, because the labor movement at a certain point became rambunctious and rebellious, because sometimes the only way you can throw off oppression is to demonstrate your willingness to go to the streets, and religious people tend to like homeostasis. We like status quo. We like keeping things as they have been. And it's very difficult to get churches to pull away from norms that they have established and things that they believe. I mean, the big fight right now is LGBTQ rights, and churches are lined up on both sides of that line. Should people who are non-sexually whose sexual orientation will not heal to norms as we have accepted them, should they have the same rights and privileges of others? And the church has a problem with that, you know.
And that's the thing too about social justice in general. Sometimes the church can be focused on one area where they're willing to advocate and support, an individual's right, race. Race is probably the one that if we were to choose some lane of social justice, we can get on board. But when it talks about rights of others who don't follow what we consider our value systems, then we won't necessarily speak up for their rights as an individual, I would say.
It's according to who you're talking about when you say the church. I mean, I remember, and I wasn't a member of the Adventist Church, but the Adventist Church did not support Martin Luther King, as did much of the Baptist Church. They did not support him. That's how the Progressive Baptists were formed, because Martin Luther King found himself going up against his own brethren. The Adventist Church did not support the March on Washington. The Adventist Church did not support the Million Man March. I remember when Bill Hall and I went there together, and there were several other ministers, but we were told in no uncertain terms that this was not a church endorsed activity, which is when Bill and I we weren't sure whether we were going to go until they told us, look, this is not a church endorsed event. And then we knew we had to go. we knew we had to go. Yeah, I mean, because the church is by nature conservative. It's the very word conservative means to put value in things that are pre-existing and to hold them and protect them. Conserve. And the church by its very nature is conservative, and it has to challenge itself. So back to Ron's question, being a part of a city office that tried to bring the government to work in tandem with the faith community to confront social issues was a tenuous activity. And I learned from it more than I ever expected. And I'm still, just this past Sabbath, I was a part of a church-based workshop on restorative and transformative justice. Now, what that basically says is that the way we should apply justice is first to consider how to restore, and then second, if possible, how to transform. Church people don't like that. Church people like hell. What was the minister's name? Pierce. Carlton Pearson? Yeah. When Carlton Pierce, when he came up with this theology that there was no hell, they kicked him out.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We love fire and brimstone. Look, I done gave up pork chops and Thunderbird, and you gonna tell me that you ain't gonna put these people who ain't giving up in hell? Nuh-uh. I want some punishment. And church people like that. And so they have a difficult time letting go of the idea of a pound of flesh. So we have to work.
Another question for you, Doc T. How do you see this curriculum impacting the Adventist Church? Do you think that it will cross over to impact our broader church or just the regional work?
Right. So we had out of the 18 people, 3 or 4 of them are from the Potomac Conference. And so they all came away with the same thing. That we
what does that mean now?
Right?
No. What I'm saying is, so we had a mix of people in our group.
I don't know, but what does coming from the Potomac Conference mean? Yeah.
What do you mean?
The makeup of Potomac.
Yeah, I mean, he's asking, was it just going to be regional conferences? By that, he meant Black people.
Oh.
And you said, no, there were people from Potomac Conference. Now, last I checked,
Right.
Potomac Conference looked like Allegheny South. So when you said from the Potomac Conference,
but they were so one was white, one was Hispanic, and two others were black. Is so it was,
Blackish.
they're black,
Don't let
right?
them put you
And
up.
so everybody came away with the same thing that these
Blackish.
that we need to start a diversity ministry in each church to bring people through this curriculum.
I like that. I wonder what that would look like. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if they announced that we're gonna, it's like organizations setting up DEI and so, like, I just wonder what that would look like. Okay.
Wait, can I say this? Can I say this? Because some people, they did ask the question to those that was in the Potomac conference, and they didn't really have an answer for this. But but why when black people begin to go into state conferences, when it gets to a certain amount, why is it the white flight? Why do they all leave? So we did talk about that, and as well, it was a number of things that came up. Nobody really, I'm sure there's a study out there on it, but yeah, that was something that we tried to address.
One person said it best, and that is, when you are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And so people who are accustomed to being in a position of entitlement and privilege, when things become equal, they feel like I'm being treated unfairly here, and so they tend to disappear.
There's a question for you, Dr. T. What is your take on the recent GC neglect of speaking out against the injustice we have seen recently with the deportations, considering a large percentage of our church is Black and brown?
I mean, that's unfortunately the status quo. That's But our conference, I know you're talking about on a GC level. Yeah, that's.
But I heard recently, and I don't want to say who shared it, but it was a reputable person, just in case.
Oh, they're reputable. Say their name.
They were sharing that the makeup of our church, the global church, is like 5%, Black. So a lot of the times.
Say what?
You mean African American?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, African American. So like a lot of the things that are important to us in our community globally, it is not as, we feel like because it's us, it's loud and in our face.
Right. Yeah, and Latasha, that's a great point. So with this the AARC model, it can be adapted the same way it was adapted from the ARC model to help with tribalism. So the guy at Andrews who had the IRB my project had to go through, he told me, he said this project can be used back in Africa to help tribes get along together. So I did keep that in mind while writing this. But to answer Stephen Clark this question again, that's par for the course. I don't expect anything different. Unfortunately, I wish I could have a positive spin to that, but I really just don't at this point.
Does the fact that a group of people would use race as a delineator for slavery, in other words, because you are of a different race, you therefore, I'm going to make you a slave because your race devalues you, in my opinion. Does the fact that a certain group of people would do that to another race of people, does that suggest that they are prone to being naturally superior in their thinking?
I would say absolutely. If you go back to the Papal Bull, right? If you go back to 1452, right? 1452, Papal Bull started, right? And it gave a theological justification in 1452 for enslaving non-Christian peoples. This evolved into colonialism, manifest destiny, and again, I said this earlier, scientific racism. It manifested, or should I say, it evolved into all of that. Because when that Papal Bull was passed, basically saying if they're non-Christian, that's the way it started, then then they can be subjugated. And then eventually, you hear in America, because to support slavery, it evolved into slavery. You had to differentiate. And in Virginia GP, you and I were in Virginia, we had this thing called Bacon's Rebellion, and Bacon's Rebellion, for those who don't know, this was before America became a country, where England was in charge, I think the 1600s. And basically Bacon was he's an indentured servant. He got his freedom, then he wanted to move up in society, wanted to buy some land, but they would not let him. So as a result, he got together with poor white people and black people, right? And they pretty much burned down Virginia, right? And they came together. They all came together, black and white, everybody came together. And so the government, England, said, we can never let this happen again. So we need to differentiate. Blacks, y'all slaves for life. Whites, y'all only indentured servitude. And so they separated, and so it's by race. The dean knows who are not worthy to be considered human. Those are slaves, and the ones that are white, they consider to be human. And that to separate us.
That gives a whole new meaning to the expression "smoking bacon." But so the idea that a race of people would use race as a tool of saying that this class of people or this group of people are inferior to me is something that you think is endemic, that demonstrates that race is prone to using superiority thoughts. The fact that one race,
the hierarchy, absolutely.
And all of these years you've known me, and you can't feel the setup.
Well, before you answer that, I kind of know I'll go there, but it's to create a hierarchy. That's all it is.
No, but I was saying, does it suggest that race of people are prone to being superior?
Oh, you mean like, do they believe that? You mean like, what do you mean?
No, I mean that by virtue of their race. For example, the Nation of Islam at one point said that white people were blue-eyed devils who, by their very makeup, as a part of the construction by Yaqub, that they were prone to be this way.
Oh yeah, no, that's not what I.
Okay. Any Nation of Islam attendees out there?
Oh me, but no, this is great. It's good to hear it a little bit more in depth. Of course, we talked about it on the surface level, and it seems like this research is something that several churches would be interested in. Like you say, going through the curriculum and then sharing it with their congregation. So I hope there's a way that just doesn't just stop at this stage, but it's something that can continue to be disseminated.
Yeah, I don't want to move too fast, but reach out to me. DM me, reach out to me. We could definitely talk, have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Dr. Phil says, when we read what will happen in the last days is focused on the Sabbath. However, we are finding more racial tension that is impacting our religious practices. Okay.
And also too, this going through the study, when you have this mindset, the whole, the remnant, when you're so focused on being the remnant, like you have this separatist mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no need to be involved with partner with other churches. What? To fight social injustice? What?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not. No, we don't
get let. Yeah.
We just got to get people into heaven. Yeah. So you have to be re-educated, I believe.
Okay. Great stuff.
And I just want to say that I'm not knocking any pastor. But when I came into the church, I didn't hear anything about social injustice. And I leave that there.
I wonder, how do you do it, Keenan? Like, how do you incorporate it into your pastoring experience? I mean, is it something that every quarter you have a message that deals with that? Is it something you kind of weave into every message? Do you have, what is your process for making sure it's something that's before your congregation?
Right. So, you got to slow walk it. You got to really, really slow walk it. So I try to weave elements of social justice into every sermon I don't try to force it, try to put it there. Like one of the things, a simple thing, real simple thing. One of the things that I did as soon as I got to my new church, they had a picture of white Jesus, and I was like, whoa, what's that about? So we took that down, and then I had to educate the people why. Some of the people who had questioned about it had to educate them how damaging that is. So we took that down. And also one of the things that I push every first Sabbath for the month, ask everybody to wear ethnic garbs, Africa, wherever, just wear your ethnic garbs. Because some people, we have the idolatry of whiteness, in the sense that, if you don't wear a suit, look like you came out of Western Europe, then you're not considered holy. So those type of things that try to push. But the main thing, but if we just stop there, that's not enough. Now we have to fight injustice. You see, and it look different. Your community may look different from my community, but we all have something to do. And so one of the things during the whole George Floyd thing, before George Floyd, I was preaching about social injustice. And somebody came to me, both of my churches, they said, we shouldn't talk about this stuff. Right. And then as soon as the George Floyd thing happened, if George Floyd murder happened, then they was like, okay, I guess we could talk about this now, Pastor. I'm like, but you didn't say that last year, So that was just interesting.
Right.
It was like, oh, it's safe. It's
because
safe.
The world is coming together on this.
Yeah. We can talk about these things. We can address these things now.
Okay. It's good to hear those practical examples, because I think some pastors may have a desire, but can't quite figure out how.
Yeah, you can't be scared. You cannot. You have to. If you see the injustice, if you see something, you gotta say something. You must do it. God has called you, to speak truth to power. You have to say something. And Jesus Christ is divisive. Because some people say, hey, you speaking about these racial issues is divisive. That's what I heard as well. But Jesus Christ is divisive. He said he came to bring a sword. He said he came to bring a sword. That's what Jesus said. That's what Jesus said. Jesus said, Tommy, I see your face, Tommy. He said, it doesn't get no more divisive than Matthew chapter 25. He said, I'm going to put my sheep on the right hand and the goat on the left. It doesn't get any more divisive than that. So these issues, that's how you know your church is in white supremacy. If you have pictures of white Jesus, your church is in white supremacy. If you think that
sounds like a thing.
If you think it's about you, if you just worried about your own salvation and not your community, it's not a we, then you may be in white supremacy as well. If you're more concerned with numbers, baptisms, tithes, instead of fighting social injustice, you may be in white supremacy as well. I keep going, but I'll stop right there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. I think you brought a lot of awareness for sure. Someone had brought up a point that Ebony had made earlier about the church's lack of engagement with social justice is one of the reasons a lot of young people, young adults are not engaged. So that's just something to consider if you want to engage your young people.
My wife would tell them why you mad. So
who's that? That's your wife?
Yes.
Oh, have mercy.
Oh, man.
But thanks for talking, let me share. I definitely appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I mean, this is great, and I definitely see it going beyond this discussion into being impactful for several churches, and we can't wait to see it happen.
Yeah,
well,
and I can promise that what the curriculum and the content, the material, the cohorts, the price will not be $666. Promise you that.
Amen.
No, it will not.
667.
All right. Well, once again, Doc Tyler, thank you so much for sharing with us. We look forward to continuing to see where the Lord moves with this project. And I definitely want to go back at the start of our show today. Miss Rosalie Van Putten shared. She's been one of our avid
Yeah.
watchers, I think since the upset started. And she shared at the beginning that she lost her husband. And so we definitely wanted to end with a special prayer for her before we go. So, Tally, if you could.
Sure. We look to you, O God, when our hearts are torn by the feeling of loss, the grief that we bear when loved ones are removed from us, and the futility that we feel when there's nothing we can do to reclaim them. But you have given us a living hope that allows us to face the challenges of our losses and our grieving with the knowledge that you will restore all things and you will make all things new. We thank you for the trust that Rosalie has placed in us, that she would bring to us this burden of grief that she bears. And we pray that by sharing it, that the load might be lightened. But more importantly, we pray that you would illuminate every warm and encouraging memory that she shares with her husband. And more importantly, we would ask that you would bring her forward and pull her by the brightest of hopes and sustain her by a strength that only heaven can give, and comfort her with the consolation that the Spirit provides, so that we might be able to pick up the burdens of every new day in the absence of our loved one, with the knowledge that he who promised is faithful and cannot fail. Give your daughter comfort now. Cause her friends to be friends indeed, and her family to give loving support that will bring her through this valley of the shadow. We thank you for her company. We thank you for the company that she enjoyed with her husband. And we look forward to that day when we shall be reunited with those who have been taken from us in these momentary passages of time in this world in which we live. In the name of the risen Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bless you, Rosalie.
Yeah, we'll continue to pray for you. All right. Well, once again, thank you all for being here with us and engaging in the conversation. Appreciated all the commentary in the chat this evening. That, to me, always makes the show even better when we hear from you all. So thank you. And we'll be back here next week, same time, same place, to do it all over again. So we invite you to definitely join us. And until then, have a great week, everybody.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.